Judge Cannon, the judge in charge of the Trump stolen documents case, has just completely overstepped and let Trump off the hook once again. But there's a catch this time, and it might actually be good news. Now, Judge Cannon has been basically Trump's lapdog as soon as this case hit her desk, so she has let Trump off the hook so many times before this. Just take a look at these clips that show her constantly getting in the way of this trial, and basically just showing her bias towards Donald Trump.
And we have some breaking news now in Donald Trump's federal classified documents case. The judge in Florida has indefinitely postponed this trial. Let's get straight to CNN's Caitlin Polans. Caitlin, what is driving this incredibly consequential decision by Judge Cannon?
Well, Judge Aileen Cannon in Florida says that this classified documents case against Donald Trump, it's too complicated and there's too much to do right now that she has to work through. And so she's taken the trial date off of the calendar, instead laid out a plan through essentially the end of July to handle other issues in this case, largely around the use of classified documents. Remember, this is a case charging Donald Trump with the mishandling of nearly 36 national security records. And because it's about national security, Jake, there's quite a lot of classified material that is part of the case and that the defense team is going to try and argue to use in their case to present to a jury or somehow in the trial. That is a big, hefty thing that this court has to work through. And so that is what is going to be taking place during the summer before Judge Aileen Cannon. She now has a hearing on the calendar for May, one for June, and then another for July, but no trial date. And she says once she gets through all of the other stuff she has to do in this case, that's when she will be announcing when the trial will take place. The bottom line here, Jake, is exceedingly unlikely, almost to the point where it may be an impossibility for Donald Trump to go to trial in this Florida classified documents case before the November election.
Another episode in the drama of the Donald Trump classified documents case. The focus? Trump's request to throw out some evidence that had been collected at Mar-a-Lago during the search. Now today, Judge Cannon heard arguments on two other key issues. The first one, another attempt by Donald Trump's team to throw out the entire case, and they argue that this guy, Special Counsel Jack Smith, is somehow unlawfully funded. Now there has not been a decision about that yet. Then she heard the prosecution's request for a gag order, arguing that his statements are inciting threats against FBI agents. The judge appeared skeptical about that argument. She didn't actually make a ruling, but she did chastise federal prosecutor David Harbach, saying, quote, "I don't appreciate your tone." That she would appreciate decorum at all times, but, quote, "if you aren't able to do that, I'm sure one of your colleagues can take up arguing this motion." Now, prosecutors argue the gag order is needed because Trump's rhetoric is so dangerous, and he's making false statements about the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, saying that agents were authorized to take him out because of the standard language that's contained in the actual text of the warrant that does allow for the use of deadly force without saying that you ought to use it. Now, Harbach saying, quote, "The government is at a loss to conceive why Mr. Trump would say something so false, so inconceivable, or inviting of violence," to which Judge Cannon asked, quote, "Where do you see a call for violence?" Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, arguing what Trump said was purely political. Quote, "The attacks very clearly are against President Biden."
Documents case, Judge Aileen Cannon has agreed to temporarily stay proceedings and has ordered briefs from both teams on the issue of how the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision impacts this case. Now, what does this mean? It means major deadlines are now not going to happen in a case that still didn't have a new trial date, and with several of us thinking Trump didn't need another thumb on the scales of justice. And all of this as we are still parsing through the profound impacts from SCOTUS's immunity decision from just this past Monday.
So with all of these past examples of her bending over backwards to help Trump, it should come as no surprise that she's doing the exact same thing again. Now, this is completely out of line for her to do because, ultimately she's a corrupt judge, but like I said, there's a catch that makes this actually good news. So what did Judge Cannon do that let Trump off the hook? Well, she just completely dismissed this case. She said, you know what, after buying all of this time, I don't think there's much else I can do to delay the case, so I'm just going to completely end it and dismiss it. Take a look at this clip.
Came in a few moments ago. The judge in the classified documents case down in Florida, Judge Aileen Cannon, she has dismissed the Trump classified documents case because the special counsel prosecution is in violation of the appointments clause of the Constitution. Of course, the special counsel in the case may appeal this case, so the saga may not be over yet, but that breaking news just coming into us right now at CNN. Let me go to CNN's Caitlin Polance. She joins me now. Caitlin, I know this is a very sudden development with lots of implications. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Judge Aileen Cannon is closing the classified documents case against Donald Trump. This was charged about a year ago in the Southern District of Florida, where prosecutors from the special counsel's office, so an office that was appointed by Merrick Garland for the particular reason to look at this in some sort of protected, independent way from the rest of the department. They brought more than 30 charges against Donald Trump for mishandling classified records after the presidency.
Now, this doesn't seem like good news at first, but what is that catch that I was talking about? Well, now that she has officially thrown out the case, Jack Smith, the special counsel, can now officially appeal this to the U.S. Court of Appeals. And that court is way more likely to hear him out and not just dismiss him like Judge Cannon has. So what's likely going to happen is they're going to agree with Jack Smith and officially throw Judge Cannon out and appoint a new judge for the case. Which is great news because it means we finally won't have a Trump lapdog slowing this case down. Now, we've had some reactions to this online, including from Donald Trump, so let's go ahead and take a look at a couple. Now, this first one is from Harvard's constitutional law expert. He said, Judge Cannon did the unthinkable. She dismissed the Trump classified documents case on the repeatedly rejected basis that DOJ violated the Constitution's appointments clause by appointing special counsel Smith at all. DOJ must appeal right away. On SCOTUS, only Justice Thomas took that view in Trump v. United States. This finally gives Jack Smith an opportunity to seek her removal from the case. I think the case for doing so is very strong. So if this is what Harvard's constitutional law expert is saying, I think it's pretty safe to assume that this is likely what's going to happen. Next, we had Don Jr.'s response to this whole thing. He says, documents case dismissed. Another example of weaponized injustice down the tubes. Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, and their Democrat henchmen take another L. If we eliminate this nonsense once and for all, this incredible country still stands a chance. Can't stop winning. He seems to not understand that this is great news for those of us who want justice to actually prevail. And finally, we have Trump's completely unhinged response to this. He says, as we move forward in uniting our nation after the horrific events on Saturday, this dismissal of the lawless indictment in Florida should be just the first step, followed quickly by the dismissal of all the witch hunts. The January 6th hoax in Washington, D.C., the Manhattan DA's zombie case, the New York AG scam, fake claims about a woman I never met, a decades-old photo in a line with her husband does not count, and the Georgia perfect phone call charges. The Democrat Justice Department coordinated all of these political attacks, which are an election interference conspiracy against Joe Biden's political opponent, me. Let us come together to end all weaponization of our justice system and make America great again. So of course, Trump used this as a way to call all of his ongoing trials complete witch hunts, which are just not true. He actually did break the law. And I think that this actually shows that Trump's a little scared because he wants all of these to be thrown out and is using this projection to say, yeah, this case was thrown out. That means all of the other cases should be thrown out because there's no basis for them, which again, is just not true. And even this case that has been temporarily thrown out, it really shouldn't have been. Judge Cannon's just a terrible biased judge. So hopefully Jack Smith is able to appeal this and get a new judge onto this case. So while this case being thrown out might look like a bad thing at first, it actually is probably the best thing to happen for this case. Because we all know Judge Cannon will do everything in her power to just completely bring this case to a halt. So by her throwing this case out, it means that we actually have the chance to get someone else new in there. So let's wish Jack Smith the best of luck when he appeals this to the U.S. Court of Appeals. And hopefully this case will actually finally start moving in the right direction.